right, y'all. Welcome to Black Health. Let's talk about it. We're here every Wednesday evening. My name is D Moss. I'm on with my dude, Justin Yard. And I got my man, Big George Anderson in the background. He's learning how to run this so that he can come on and run all the shows. We got to make sure we bring our young cats around. I'm actually passing off the baton to him. He's going to be taking this stuff and running it. Cool with you, Just?
Always.
All right. Oh, I see our brothers are here. Let's get them on stream right about now. Boom and boom. Gentlemen, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. I feel honored. I got these two esteemed gentlemen on the line. We're going to talk about black health as it pertains to black men. And I don't think anybody discusses that particular subject any better than you two. So if you want to take a few minutes and just introduce yourselves, I'll start with Mr. Porter. Then we'll go over to Reverend Lewis.
Well, firstly, it's good to see. Well, firstly, it's good to be with you, Darryl. And, I appreciate all the work that you do in the city of Springfield and beyond. And also to Mr. Anderson, I had the pleasure of being representing you, Mr. Anderson, with your president as it relates to you not being able to be on campus. So I'm glad that worked out for you. And my brother Justin, well, it's always a pleasure to kick it with Justin. So my name's Gary. I'm a psychotherapist with the African Diaspora Mental Health Association. That name is very intently chosen. And, what we do here is we approach mental health from an Afrocentric point of view. And at the foreground of our philosophy is PTSS, which is post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Wow. Okay. I'm looking forward to talking about that tonight. David Lewis, how are you, Reverend?
I'm well, man. I'm blessed and grateful to be in the presence of such dynamic young kings. I don't know the young brother behind you, but I'm sure that I'm going to get to know him a little bit better. We've been at this for a long time in this city.
Before we had gray hair on us.
Yeah, right. And I had the opportunity, the pleasure actually to meet Justin, who's been instrumental with assisting me in my trek back to good health. So, I appreciate all the work that he's doing here. I'm the clinical director here at the African Diaspora Mental Health Association. I'm also a therapist, a psychotherapist here, as well as a licensed alcohol drug counselor.
All right. So thank you, gentlemen. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I'm so glad you guys are here. So me and Justin had some questions that we want to share with our audience as it pertains to mental health in black men. I'm not an expert. I don't know a lot about it. And I'm probably the guy who probably needs to be sitting in one of your chairs right now. So can we talk about mental health and what that is? So that so that folks get a better understanding of what it is. Typically, growing up in my house, you had mental health issues. My mom would take you to church, they pray for you, and we move on. And they tell you to work through it. But I don't know if I would recommend that to my children. So let's talk about mental health, why it's critically important, and why it should be a priority in terms of what types of conversations we should be having.
Absolutely. First thing is is dispelling the stigma about mental health. It's been an issue with us getting the help that we need because for two things. One, we didn't see anyone that looked like us. And two, we looked at mental health as part of the system because of the disparities in the health system, we kind of lumped the mental health system along with that, which is understandable. But mental health is a big issue because one of the things that you kind of alluded to it. One of the things that was a protector, but it also hurt us was what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
And so what was going on in the house was trauma. You understand? And a lot of trauma, a lot of things that we couldn't talk about, and we didn't talk about it because one, we didn't want to talk. We didn't want to talk to strangers. We didn't know how they was going to, respond to what, or even understand what we were talking about. And we also felt a kind of like we was betraying our offender, if you will, because our offender was at times not just looked like us, but was related to us.
Absolutely.
So we're harboring a lot of mental health issues, and we're trying, and because we're a resilient people, and we've been able to get through so much. But we've been able to get through so much, still hurting, and still passing down that hurt to our children and to the next generation.
So let me just and Dave, Dave did an awesome job. Let me just hit right to the nail. So mental health is exactly what it is. It includes our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It affects our belief system. It helps us determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. And so if we look at it from that perspective, then and look at what's going on in our neighborhoods and how we deal with each other, especially the relationships that we have with each other. Black men and black men, black men and black women, our children, young people on the streets, how we're dealing with each other. It affects all of that. So mental health is by far the key component of survival, and along with what we eat. Just to drill down, that is what mental health is.
Okay. Gary, let me ask you this. And Justin, feel free to jump in at any time. How would I know? I'm a grown man, been around for a long time, had my ups, my downs. How would I know when I would need to visit a clinician or a therapist and have that conversation? How would I identify what's just a casual problem and what's a festering emotional issue? When should a brother go to seek therapy?
So, firstly, there's never a wrong time. That's okay. A fact thing, right? So you can seek therapy at any time. But what I hear you talking to, Darryl, is what we in the business call clinically significant, right? So we all can get angry, right? We should get angry. We all have stress. We all have depression. We all have anxiety. But when in the business they talk about clinically significant, that is when you're unable to deal with those issues like everybody else. It's taken over how you think. It's having you can't handle yourself at work. You can't handle yourself at home in relationships. We can't resolve the issues that we should be able to resolve with our peers. So, we're picking up weapons and guns and knives and we're doing damage against each other. That's clinically significant, right? The way we relate to our children, instead of being able to talk it out, we're beating it out. That's clinically significant, right? So those are all telltale signs that you need to seek some mental health counseling. Now, I seek mental health counseling every day. I go in my brother's office, David, and we kick it. That is me releasing some of the stuff that I have. So, and I say that to go back to Dave's point of view, to dispel the stigma.
Okay.
It's good to have somebody professional to talk to. So that's how I would I don't know if that helped you at all.
No, you did. You basically, these is my words. I'm hearing what you're saying. So we should be talking to someone anyways. Any pent up frustration, issues, when it gets to the point where things are overwhelming, we should look for someone to talk to. If it gets to the point where it's really overwhelming, we should actually seek out a polished professional and get the help that we need, correct?
Yeah, and I don't want. Let me just add, right? If we go pre-slavery, not post-slavery, right? In the
Yeah.
era we're living in now, if we go pre-slavery, our system was set up where we did this. We had elders in the tribes. We
Okay.
had people. We had counselors in the tribes, right? So this is something that we've always done. The issue that we're facing today is that we're no longer in the tribe. We're now post-slavery. They've destroyed our system.
Right.
And it's impossible to talk to your oppressor.
Right.
It's impossible to go sit with your oppressor and talk to. And so there's not a lot of us in the profession, and the system that we would have had in place, our family, that's been destroyed.
Absolutely, and also something that you kind of alluded to earlier, Daryl. Social service agencies came about because of the lack of support that we were getting from our churches, because the church used to be the center of our communities, and so when the church went in-house, if you will, it caused, it was a vacuum, and so it caused all these social service agencies started emerging, and during that time. And the base part, not the base part, but the least level of seeking mental health is everyone. Some people just don't have somebody to talk to.
Okay.
You understand? Some people just don't have someone to talk to. When I think about, to be honest, when I think about bullying, right? First thing that comes to my mind is just this is me, is that person don't have a bigger brother, or or a cousin or somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody
Yeah.
that they can go to, someone that can advocate for them, or defend them, if you will. And so there's folks that just don't have no one that they can talk to.
Right. Or they may possibly go to someone who's scarred
So
as well and may also need somebody to talk to. Gary, I'm
They
sorry.
will.
It sounds like you're about to say something.
No,
Gary?
that was Justin.
Okay, Justin. Sorry about that. Yes, sir.
yeah, I was going to ask, like, when it comes to men and mental health as opposed to women, do you see a difference in your approach when somebody comes into your office? Is there like plans that are different? Do we differentiate, or is it just kind of not one size fits all? But when somebody first comes into your office, what the process look like, and is there a difference between male and female?
Well, I mean, it's a difference between male and male. With everyone, everyone is different, and so the first thing is what brings you here. So what are we dealing with? And so we approach it from that point of view, because they're the experts on them. We just help them navigate. You understand? So our approach is form fitted for the individual. So whether it's male, whether it's female, it's whatever their issue, whatever the things that they're dealing with. That's how we approach it. So it's everyone's different, and how they deal with stress, how they deal with trauma, how they deal with depression. But there's myself and Gary, we're and I'm a kind of jump out the bushes with speaking for him. We're psychoanalytics, and as well as CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, meaning that if you can change your emotions, you can change your behavior. And also there's an impetus, there's an origin of your behavior. You understand? And sometimes, a lot of times, and again, with Gary talking about what we do here with PTSS, a lot of times you don't even know where that origin is. You don't know why you're acting like you're acting, why you're treating your women like you're treating, why you talking to your child like you're talking to them. Why you treating your brother like you treat them. There's things. Why do you feel like you feel about yourself?
Got you. Wow. So can I move back just a little bit? Gary mentioned something about pre-slavery. So when we talk about counseling, we talk about getting clinical attention. Can you guys talk about that a little bit more? I mean, because when I think of therapy, I think of clinicians, I think of mental health issues, I think of something that's a problem that typically impacts white people. That was my thinking 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I'll keep it real. So can you talk about the history, just go into the history a little bit more in terms of what we did in terms of a support system for each other?
So, okay, so I alluded to it earlier and the reason why it's important to go pre-slavery is it gives us a context of who we are, right? Who we were born, how we were born, right? And so when we go pre-slavery, we're not slaves, and there's no slave master relationship. And to be quite frank, there's almost perfection in the way that we live our lives. There's harmony, there's respect, there's no gang violence, there's no drugs. All of the stuff, the things that we're faced with today didn't exist pre-slavery. At least that's what my research shows me.
Okay.
So what we had systems that were in place, really perfect systems, where we were able to seek out help. If there was an issue going on, the elders got involved. And what the elders said, that's literally how it got rolled out. They understood the issues of the life. They understood the pressures of the life. Now, bear in mind, the pressures of today didn't exist pre-slavery, right? It was a whole different type of life, different type of living. So when we go back pre-slavery, where we have almost us operating in perfection, and then as we come to slavery, where we have what we call forced mobility, right? The idea that they forced us to mobilize, they forced us to move, they forced us to leave our homes and bring us in a land where we were then controlled. Then our mobility was controlled, right? And I'm just going to go off script for a second.
Okay.
The idea of, we've all heard the idea of, well, why they stop you? Well, driving while black, right? You're driving your car, you get stopped. Why they drop you? Driving while black. The truth is, our mobility is the issue. They have controlled our mobility from day one, from forced mobility. And now they're controlling our ability, they're impacting our ability to move. And that means going from A to B. That's why, we're patrol, right? Police, the original police come out of the slave patrols. Yep. And we're still being patrolled today. Why we're being fired at work, why we're not being promoted at work, why we're not being hired. It's all about controlling your mobility, right? And I know I went off script, that it was important for me to put that in context because now when we come into the society today, everything that we're faced with, it's about mobility. The inability to move, the inability to buy a home, the inability to have a family, an intact family. Them putting our fathers, the black fathers, in jail. You name it. This all feeds into what's going on in our mental health. And so when people come into our doors versus a Caucasian's door, when they come into our door, it's implied that we're friendly just the minute they see us. Now that may change if we start talking and behaving like them, right? Then that safety zone is gone. But one thing that we've learned at the African Diaspora Mental Health Association is that white people cannot effectively treat black people because there is no safe zone. There's no ability to build a relationship.
Right.
Now, I went off script, but it was important for me to get this in.
Nope, it's okay. And that's why we have you guys on here, because I think there are people who need to hear this. Post-traumatic. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
So, yeah, I was going to say the same thing, probably, so people can understand post-traumatic slavery syndrome disorder. Some people, they've coined the term. I think people need education, and whoever wants to kind of elaborate on it, need education on what that means, and also understand, because there's a lot of people on the fence. We know the other people in our lives that don't think there's systematic oppression, they don't believe it's post-traumatic slavery syndrome, and just to explain to them what that means for our brothers and sisters that skate in that line and don't know whether or not we're still in oppression.
So let me jump in one more time. So what we hear about all the time is PTSD, right?
Yep.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, right? We all hear that. So one of the easy ways for me to show you or to give you a visualization is to talk about PTSD first, right? So we know that unfortunately, when a woman is sexually assaulted, she's faced with trauma, correct?
Correct.
Right? And that
Yep.
would be one event. That's one event, right? We know that if a member of our family leaves and they go join the military and they go into harm's way, right? And they do a tour of, let's say, 6 months. Typically, when they come back, we're finding a lot of our veterans are diagnosed with PTSD, right? We also know that there are systems in place that are funneling a lot of money to help these veterans adjust, right? There's housing, there's schooling, there's education, there's mental health, there's physical health. People rally around them. Now that's, let's say, 6 months of being in this environment. So now when we bring this back to slavery, when we talk about 500 years, okay, to put it in context, 500 years of trauma and oppression, right? And this has never been addressed.
Right.
Right.
There's no acknowledgement. It hasn't been addressed. And the only thing that's occurred, it's been passed on from generation to generation to generation to modern day. And so let me tell you how it presents itself, right? You know, and I hope there's lots of men on listening today, and I hope there's lots of women listening today. Let me tell you how it presents itself. It presents itself when you have black men, okay, that are out there seeing multiple women. The connection is that during slavery, we were forced to breed. We were used as studs.
Right.
So we were forced to breed with other women in order to produce a slave. That was the end product, the production of a slave. Now this goes on for 500 years, and it's man after man after man after man seeing the men in their family behave in that way. But they're behaving that way, unfortunately, but they have no knowledge why. They're just doing it. Matter of fact, it's normal. And the women are saying it's normal. That's what men do.
Right.
That's what they do, right? That's what we say in our families. A man's going to be a man, right? But they haven't made the connection to how this behavior started. Let me give you one more example. Gang violence is not just gang violence. Gang violence is the entertainment that where they took black men during slavery, forced them to combat each other for the white man's entertainment, kill, hurt, maim for the white man's entertainment. Again, this went on years and years and years, and we see it playing out on the streets today with gang violence. It is the same behavior. The issue is they're not making the connection. When you ask them why are they doing this, I don't know. You know, this is my turf. Let me use you, Daryl, real quick, and then I'm going to stop. All right.
Okay.
I heard a brother say, he ain't from here. He ain't even from here.
Yeah.
That is slave mentality. What do you reckon? That's gang mentality. Instead of saying that's my brother, they're saying he ain't even from here. So God knows what they say about me. I come from London, England, or at least I was born in London, England.
Right.
So you know, but what they fail to recognize is that you're my black brother, right? So that's real trauma, and I'm going to let Dave weigh in.
Well, I think you've articulated it very well. We haven't, our trauma hasn't been addressed. Everyone else that has had some type of a trauma uh, has been addressed, has been dealt with, except ours. What they tell us is get over it. It's not happening now, which is a lie. Which is, I mean, and we've, some of us have fell for the old banana in the tailpipe. The prison industrial complex is nothing but the new plantations. You understand the healthcare, the disparities in the healthcare system, the disparities in the legal system, disparities in the educational system is key. You understand? We're not learning nothing about us. That's why that's a big part. We've acknowledged for most part we've acknowledged that there is some disparities, right?
Right. Yep.
We've acknowledged that the educational system does not represent us, but we still haven't changed it at all. And
Right.
this is the trauma. We're re-traumatizing ourselves today. So that trauma that's been passed down, we relive it every day because of racism, because of the systemic racism. And that's what we deal with. So PTSS. So who needs to come? We all need to come because we're all affected because of this trauma that's been passed down to us in our behaviors that we don't even know where they came from.
And you know what's interesting when you talk about the post-traumatic stress disorders? I think of my father, who often talked about growing up as a little boy, would sit on his grandfather's knee. His grandfather was born sometime in the late 1860s, early 1870s, they were still living, some were still on plantations, straight slave, not slave-like conditions, but slave conditions. And they would talk about the older folks. There were older folks who would actually talk about, their parents or grandparents. When I was a kid, I'm a 60s baby, and they would talk about slavery. So sometimes we talk about it as if slavery ended 1,000 years ago and there's no impact. Right. For me, I look at it, I got my dad, I have his father and his grandfather. So 3 generations ago, we're looking at slavery. We're talking about my father who experienced sitting on the knee of folks who worked on plantations. I'm talking about my grandfather who walked me through the fields, who can talk about his father and grandfather and all the old aunties and uncles in the Tuscaloosa, Alabama, who were actual slaves. You understand what I'm saying? So we start talking about these operational values and mindsets in terms of how we think. A lot of the stuff we carried straight off the plantation and we still carry in our backpack. And I say this for our listeners to make sure they get an understanding of what we're dealing with. This stuff we're not talking about issues that happened 1,000 years ago. This type of stuff you can't get over. Then I'm going to segue over to the work environment. When we go to work, I remember my dad going to work. He worked at General Motors down in all-white Bristol, Connecticut. Klan-like conditions. I look at, the environment I just left and some of the other working environments I were in. Talk about the anxiety, the different disorders you develop just in the workplace. We talk about mobility. The job could be a jail cell. The job could be a cage because it prevents us from moving to the left, the right. I mean, it's just, you walk in there like you're walking on eggshells. But I'm going to be quiet and let y'all talk.
Dave, you want to go and I'll go after you, or I can go?
I mean, there's just so much in that. Again, with the educational system, we're not taught to be we're taught to be consumers. The disparities in the systems, we're not looking to be owners, to be employers. We're looking to be employees. We're looking for jobs and not looking to create jobs. You know what I mean? And so when we're in that rat race, and so we get jobs, and you see who is at the top of the food chain, if you will. And so it just feels like it's a plantation. It feels like The boss is master.
Right.
You know, we get overlooked for promotions. We don't get the same pay. You understand? And if we speak up for yourselves, you're going to be let go, because we can't have you inciting anyone to change the condition of a people who I need to. You understand white supremacy. You have to understand the system. It's economic for them to keep us where we're at. They built their economics on our free labor anyway. So it's to their benefit, you know. I was just about to say amen. It's to their benefit, economically, you understand, to keep us where we're at.
Absolutely.
Not to acknowledge what we went through slavery, not to acknowledge the present conditions that we're in, and not to acknowledge any movements that we have to advance ourselves. And so the anxiety that we feel when we get up and go to work, this depends on my livelihood. So what happens is I begin to conform to the good Negro so that I don't lose my job. You understand? Because I have a family to feed. So I begin to compromise myself, you understand, so that and work for slave labor, you understand, because I don't want to lose. I have children, I have a family, I don't want to lose that. So the anxiety I have, first of all, the anxiety I have getting to work, leaving the house and getting to work, then the anxiety of losing my job, then the anxiety to get, first of all, and the anxiety while I'm there of what's going on with my children, what's going on with my family. Then I got the anxiety to get back. Man, listen. And then when I get home, I'm dealing with the PTSS there. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
man, it's rough.
Wow.
Let me just add in there. So, Darryl, you mentioned, you know, I want to hop on what Dave just mentioned, as well as your question.
Okay.
Anxiety presents itself in lots of different ways, right? It has plenty of different presentations. And so all the research tells us that when we have anxiety that we cannot process, it's going to present itself in different avenues. So in people of color, it typically presents itself in high blood pressure, headaches, constant stress, prostate cancer, early death, asthma. There has to be a release, right? But, you know, Dave likes to say that pressure busts pipes, right? So if there's no release valve, it's got to come out somehow. And so you know, for Black people, we see it presenting itself that way. Now, we also see it coming out in substance use, substance abuse, domestic violence, divorces, child welfare issues, taking it out on our children because we don't know how to process. We can't even stay calm enough for our children to be children, right? So as they're trying to be children, doing what they would naturally do, we react in a way that we shouldn't react. Now, the other thing is, I would argue that slavery is not ended. I would argue slavery is not ended.
Agreed.
Because whenever you have a relationship where you can't speak, and if you do speak, you're going to be punished. That's a slave master relationship, right? And that is the condition that most Black men and women find themselves in today, right? So I would argue that slavery is not ended. But you know what was interesting is I was listening to the dateline that you was throwing out, the 1760s, I think you threw out.
1860s, yeah.
1860. Okay, so in in the 1851, there's a guy, and I encourage everybody to look this up, write it down, and go check. There's a guy by the name of Samuel Cartwright, right? He was Samuel Cartwright, right?
All right.
So Cartwright, Cart, Wright, Wright.
Okay.
He was a psychologist, and this is how deep this stuff gets. He created a disorder called drapetomania, and this is what the disorder in summary said, right? In summary, it said that if you didn't want to be a slave, you had a mental illness. That's in summary what it said. And that was the thinking of the day. And so, today, if we don't want to be slaves, they call us things too. They call us rebels. They call us, we have a chip on the block. So there's a lot going on with us. We got some issues, but really, we're just trying to exercise our right as human beings. But whenever you cannot do that, it's clearly a slave-master-slave relationship. And, that would be, if I was writing a thesis today, that would be my thesis statement. If I was writing a dissertation, that would be my thesis statement, that I would argue that Black people are still slaves today. And at best, sharecroppers.
Absolutely. I just had a brother on one of our other shows. His name is Max Parthis, and he spent about an hour and a half with us, and he was saying the exact same thing that you just said. He calls himself a modern day abolitionist.
Right.
He basically dispelled all the myths about being free in America. But I just want to take a moment real quick for the folks who are commenting. It seems like there's quite a few comments. Brandon Ella Green says, hello, Mr. Porter. Let's see. In regards to mental health, P. Andy says it's because of the stigma. Most people are in denial. Said most people suppress thoughts or emotions about mental health issues. Someone else said, where is it? Where am I? During slavery, Blacks were classified classless when they had mental health issues. Tracy Hill says, I'm glad, let me put it on screen. I'm glad you brought up the fact that you believe white people cannot effectively work with Black clients. Have you dealt with Black people not wanting your services because they may feel your practice is not capable or unable to effectively help them do their issues because you are a Black-owned practice? Have you guys run into that problem?
So Darryl, you've had the pleasure of coming into our place.
Yes, I did.
You know exactly what we've got going on here. Number one, I can guarantee you there isn't a white institution that aesthetically looks better than ours. But number two, we have about 17 wonderful therapists of color.
Okay.
We have the highest paid therapist in the city, that I guarantee. And let me just touch on that real quick, and then I'm going to answer brother's question.
Absolutely.
Our philosophy here is not their philosophy. So that when they're paying their therapist $21, $22, $23 an hour and creaming off the rest of the money, right? We're paying our therapists to start $33, $34, $35, $10 more right out the gate. Because our philosophy is, as it should be for our brothers and sisters, to help them up, to help them rise so they can support their family. There's enough to go around. So if we get there a year later, we'll get there. But it's important for us to make sure that we all get there together. That's our philosophy. Now to the question, I have not personally met a brother or sister that felt that they was getting a service subservient to our Caucasian therapist. Matter of fact, they feel more at home. The relationship is established immediately. The basis of therapy is therapeutic relationship. We can validate them. When you come in our office and you talk about racism, we get it. When you go into their office and you talk about racism, they may start to say you're schizophrenic or paranoid. Right? So we're able to validate what's going on. So the answer to my brother is no. It's actually been it's what's propelling us forward right now.
Got you. Okay. Let's get some more comments. I know Justin has some more to ask, and I know George has a question. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Where are we? Where are we? Apologize, everybody. Here we go. I'm getting slow in my old age.
Now you know my eyes is bad. What's George's last name back there?
Anderson.
Don't I know you, George?
Yes,
Yep.
I go to your church.
That's what I thought, man. My eyes is bad. My glasses are for fashion, and I got these little. Unless you blow it up, you got this little this little block. So I'm like,
Here we go. When African Americans suffer from mental health illness, right away, most white mental health professionals assume that they're on drugs. That's from P. Andy. Victoria Rowe asked the question, do Black women do better with Black women therapists as opposed to Black male therapists and vice versa? So you guys want to address that one? What do you think?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
well, do Black women do better with Black women therapists as opposed to Black male therapists? Actually, it depends on the the diagnosis. It depends on what the issues are. You know, if you're coming in for trauma from a male, so it may not. It's not going to be. It wouldn't be wise to, you may not want to work with a male therapist, and that's understandable. You know what I mean? So. It's not do women do better with Black women therapists as opposed to Black male therapists? They probably do. But again, it's subjective. It depends on the individual, what they're coming in for, And I think that, so yes, I think it depends on what they're coming in for.
Let me give you my perspective on that, right? So there is nothing more rewarding, right, than when you have a Black woman who has been traumatized, especially sexually traumatized, by, unfortunately, some men, right, who has a real fear of men. There's nothing more rewarding when she's able to sit with a Black male therapist and realize 2 years in that it's totally safe. There's been no inappropriate behavior. For her to be able to see a safe, strong Black man, to change that mindset, there's nothing more rewarding.
Wow.
But to Dave's point, absolutely. I do a lot of family therapy here, a lot of the couples therapy here, and it's interesting to see the dynamics. But women, for some reason, they come in right off the bat, and they would prefer to see sometimes a female therapist. I'm just talking about what the reward can be like when they realize that Black men are safe, because they're coming in wanting to see a female therapist 9 times out of 10 because of the way they've been treated by men. And so that, it's how do you deal with that? You deal with that by showing them that Black men are safe, because you don't want them going the rest of their life thinking they can't deal with a Black man, and you certainly don't want them bringing up their daughters to think that they can't be around Black men.
Absolutely. Good point. Chivalry67 from Twitter says, I guess as we were talking about the part about being on the job, it said, and often we are the only person of color in our departments. P. Andy says, I saw it firsthand working at an Atlanta mental health facility. Won't say which one. Saw the difference in the treatment of African Americans, Indians, Spanish people, minorities on the whole. I was underpaid and overworked. They put me on furlough. I quit. Marlene Prosser is appreciating everything you guys are saying. She says it's powerful. Who is it? Give me a second. Someone said Cartwright was a psychologist. Katrina Banks, I think Black women receiving therapy may do better with Black women therapists because likely most able to relate to you and have a greater understanding when it comes to certain issues Black women have faced. Ms. Marie says a lot of people are ashamed. Let's see. A lot of mental illness is hidden. I just want to get these off, make sure people know if they're being heard. So, strong Black excellence, ADMH for our community. Teach brothers. This sister says, I'm in school for PNHMP. I'm not sure what that is. I would love to have the privilege of having clinicals with your practice.
Come on up.
Go to our website.
All right, so make sure you hit them up. Ms. Andy, you are definitely welcome. Tracy Chappelle says, unfortunately, throughout history, there has been a negative stigma attached to therapy. Are you seeing a change in that mindset? Vera Irvin says, you guys are so interesting and informative. Tracy Chappelle's question, in terms of the stigma, is there a change in that? Are we seeing more Black men and women walking through the doors and asking and looking for assistance or help?
So we've been, since we started, we opened in 2017, 2018. I think it's the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And one of the things that we've been deliberate about is dispelling that stigma through different forms. One of the forms, DeMoss, you did at AIC, you I said that was one of the forms. We've done many other forms in the city, and now with the COVID on Zoom to dispel the stigma. And what we found is that it's definitely picking up. With the referrals are coming in after every event, we've gotten referrals.
Good.
And people are getting that understanding. The biggest thing is for them to see people that look like them. You know, and that's really the biggest thing about dispelling this stigma is for them to see folks in this profession that looks like them. So they know that, like Gary said, when they come in, they know that they're going to talk to some folks that understand. We don't think that you're crazy when you tell us that they was following you in the store. We don't think that you're crazy when you get pulled over for driving while being Black. You understand? Right. We understand those things because, to be honest with you, we've experienced them too. So we can validate that and understand that and help you to cope better than what you were when you came in.
Daryl, I just want to challenge my wonderful sister out there that made the comment that that women's issues are different than men. I think I'm just summarizing. I can't remember the sister's name. We would argue that it's not. The issue is race. That's the issue. It just so happens, a matter of fact, that is one of theirs, meaning the Caucasians' biggest dividers for our community is using gender. They have successfully managed to divide our families using the gender role.
Absolutely.
The issue is absolutely race. And there's a sister out there by the name of Kimberly Crenshaw. She does something on intersectionality. So if 100 women stood up, right, and they were Black, white, pink, blue, or green, you would find the Black women at the bottom of those in terms of treatment. But they're all women. So the issue is race.
And you're right, Gary. I think we've been so compartmentalized. They have Black men over here, Black women over there, Black youth over there. We're so split up, and it's reflected in terms of the family structure. When we take a real close internal assessment of our family structure, it's starting to reflect that narrative, and I think that needs to change. And I'm so glad you said that. George, you had a question earlier.
I forgot.
I'm sorry. My bad. Justin, anything? I see you up there.
Yeah, I think one thing I would definitely want to ask, and I think I talk about frequently, we're in a hypersensitive culture right now, and one of the things that is important to hypersensitive culture that I feel, and I don't know if you guys can second this, that, and we're talking about black men, especially ones that are outspoken, are under attack. So we're marginalized. And how would somebody, obviously, when they come into your office, you're able to discuss that in this society, right? I mean, that's happening. When they leave your doors, they're still going to have to deal with that. How do you help somebody in that situation? Basically, dealing with the fact that they can't voice their opinion. We already know they can't voice their opinion. They can't be what we will call masculine, or what we saw growing up. And I'm not saying what I saw. I grew up in a totally different environment, whatever the case is. But are you guys able to help people with that? Because I think that's a huge thing, even for me, not being able to be certain places, because I know that I have to be very politically correct and I can't really voice my opinion. How do you help somebody in that situation?
We would argue the opposite, Justin. We would argue that you can. And so, part of this whole control system is control of the mind, right? And so, once they have us in a place where they are telling us that we cannot, they win. So I would argue that you can, but I would also argue, not even to argue, this is about strategy. How do you do it, right? How do you do it, and who do you do it with? Now, I've been working on a strategy for the past year and a half now, going on 2 years, with how to show the racism in the Massachusetts trial court. It's a system that I work in. That strategy is just about to unfold. Hopefully it will unfold in around the first 1 or 2 weeks in November. But I've had to strategize hard to get where I am, but at no point have I been silenced. And the reason why I haven't been silenced, because they don't control me. We often say when we speak, can the white man in the room please leave? And we're talking about the white man in your head. Get him out. Get him out. Expel him. Do an exorcism. Do something. And so, if we can get him out, we can then go in.
Gary, can you say that one more time for the people waiting in the room?
So what we often talk about, particularly when we're with a group of people, is we ask them for the white man in the room to please leave, right? And what we are talking about is the white man in your head, right? And then I went on to say, if we can get him out, then we can enter in, meaning us. Once we can get in, then we can control us.
We're unapologetically black. That's our stance. Unapologetic about it, loving ourselves. And so you can't, loving yourself and loving who you are, builds your self-esteem. And if you love you, then you have a great chance of loving me. Because if you love you, you're not going to harm me, especially if I look like you. So a lot of times, it's about how when they come in. I'm trying to answer your question. When they come in, how do they feel about themselves?
And I think everybody should read, because Gary, you said it best. It's Miseducation of the College Negro by Cargie Woodson.
Mm-hmm.
And it was written, I believe, in the 1920s. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This is the 19s. I know you're going to bring it out. I know you got it somewhere.
I'm looking to see if I can pull it, but
This is in the 1920s, and we have to understand that's when he wrote that. That's not in 2020, but almost everything he said, because basically in that book, he creates a typology or a profile of what a miseducated Black Negro looks like. And when you see it today, you can see it widespread. And this is in the 1920s, I believe 30s, but within that time span, I forgot the exact date, year. But this is something that I think is very important for us as Black men to understand. Also, when we do get into a place in which we are okay with now speaking to another Black man about our issues, or just another person, we have to make sure they're Black, because of the fact that there is that huge gap, like we already talked about. And the question I was going to ask you: do you see Black men now coming into the facility now at a higher rate?
We definitely see Black men coming in, Black women, Black people, are coming in, and not just Black people, but Latinx, our Latin brothers and sisters are coming in. We what's interesting is we haven't done an open house. We haven't done any like major campaigning, if you will, and we've really been growing by word of mouth through our insurance companies. We really have insurance companies and other, white folks that understand that they can't do what we do, and not just referring folks to us, but even wanting us to do training. You understand? So, yes, we're seeing a lot of people utilizing the services. It could be better. We're always welcoming new clients and new clinicians that want to work.
Okay. Real quick, does anybody else have the show playing in the background or something else? We're getting a lot of feedback. No? I'm not sure what the feedback's coming from. Okay. George, you had a question.
All right. As a college student, how am I supposed to manage my mental health? Because I'm trying to pay for college right now, so I can't really pay for the therapy that I need. But I know that after hearing you guys speak, I know that I need it, because there's a lot of things. I'm living on BC's campus. Thank you very much again, Gary. But I am living on Boston College's campus. As you know, there's a lot of people outside of my color, white people. So how do I deal with that? Because I overthink a lot of things. Oh yeah, they're thinking who is this guy? So I had to buy a whole bunch of Boston College. I had to wear my Boston College mask or my Boston College lanyard. I had to carry it everywhere just so they know I'm a part of them. And then also the area is very white. There's not a Black person in sight until I get outside of that community.
So, firstly, brother, that's a great question, and I just want to reiterate that you are an absolute leader, and I just want to bring your mind back, not for accolades, but you got to witness how we do things, right? When we group together and we say to somebody, no, it's not going to happen this way, it's going to happen this way. Mm-hmm. That's why you're on the campus, right? Yes. Along with a letter of apology. So go ahead. Did you want to jump in?
I also wanted to talk about that too, because the letter of apology, I didn't feel like it was a real apology. I feel like it was just saying, honestly, what I got from it was, sorry, George, that it offended you, but that's the way things are. And that's what I got out of the letter.
So, and let me just say, I read the letter and I concur, right? I concur, but I wasn't surprised. Right? I concur, but I wasn't surprised. That's how they do things. That you very rarely are you going to get a genuine apology. So what the focus needs to be on, are you getting what you need for you, not what they're trying to give you. That's got to be the focus. Because they're not good. You sometimes you if you get a real apology, it's because their job's in jeopardy. And their job definitely wasn't in jeopardy. So let's just focus on you. You're a leader, and there's plenty of young black men and women in the educational system. Okay, you just need to seek them out. You need to search them out, and you need to coalesce. One of the things that they do best is keep us in silos. And as long as they keep us in silos, that's that division game. That's when you then have to acquiesce and behave like them. But if you're able to seek out your brother, your sister, you can, it gives you a sense of safety. They play that silo game very well in politics. Darryl can attest to that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They keep us separated.
Absolutely.
But our strength is seeking each other out and supporting each other and relying on each other. And so you're up at BC. Obviously, it's largely a white or mostly white environment, but use all that you can do. Use your social media, whatever it is to get together, group together, because I'm telling you, that is where your safety is. And it really is where your safety is. What we don't want you to do is graduate with a degree and think like them.
Right.
We want you to graduate with your degree and think like us. Right? I hope that answered your question. It probably didn't.
It did vaguely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So at this point, go ahead, Dave, and then I'm gonna go to a quick video when you're done. Oh, hold on. I got to unmute. Wait a minute. We're getting a lot of bounce backs. I had to mute.
Yeah, I couldn't hear his question. Could you mute it again so that I can hear what he had asked?
Oh, ask it again.
Yeah, ask it again.
So being on a mostly white campus, how do I deal with like different things such as like mental health because I can't pay for like a therapist out there?
I'm sorry, that feedback hit me up one more time.
Okay, let me do it for you. He says, being a college student, he knows that his mental health is in question at times. How could he go about getting the therapy that he needs without having the resources? What's his best course of action so that he can sit down with someone and talk about everything that he has locked inside his head?
So what Gary said was on point, and that's utilizing the therapy among us. And I would add to that, because of this COVID season, telehealth is an amazing tool, and you can be all the way in Boston.
Good point.
And ADMA can still help you out.
All right, that's what's up. So I gotta play this quick video, and then we have a sponsor. I want to show her flyer real quick. So here it is.
I was always taught to be strong in this world. Told to never let my guard down because at any moment I could be attacked without a moment's notice. That my skin made me a target. Skin that has persevered through many trials and tribulations, from seeing my mama raped by landlords, to my father being beaten and stripped of his manhood, to my brothers and sisters being separated into jobs for this bigger system. My skin has always been under attack. Yet somehow we prevailed through it all, through all the lynchings, literacy tests, new Jim Crows, war on drugs, the gentrifications, police brutalities, food deserts, mass incarcerations. We survived and adapted and pushed to change because our very existence depended on it. Our very existence depends on this black strength. Strength that has carried us for decades, but is undermining an important aspect of our humanity and feeding in on itself. Being strong all the time took away our ability to speak about our weaknesses, our sadness, our mental illnesses. This silence is killing us. On top of that, we lack proper mental health care access and endure mistreatments by medical professionals who cannot relate to us in their practice. On top of that, we stigmatize mental illness to preserve this place of our strength, damaging ourselves, and among black children observing a spike in suicide rates because they may feel that their place in heaven is way better than their place here today, because when black life isn't valued enough for professional help, adequate housing, or even breathing, life here degrades in value in comparison to life after. Black bodies, strong black souls are floating through the wind, seamlessly letting go. Strong black bodies are screaming for help, but suffering in silence and being socially and systematically being put on quiet. Black souls are strong, but we do need help when we do fall through the cracks. That is why I want you to know that you can patch things up with me. All right, we can kick it back like it was a drive-through movie in the 1970s. We could get some help from people who actually understand us, refute our standards of stigmatizing mental illness, and fight against the structures that chronically misdiagnose what this really is. Fight against the racism that brings up our mental health issues and lowers our treatment options, bringing us one step closer to seeing no other option. I want us to see that we have a way to heal this wound that has been widening ever since day one with no means of contracting. I want us to know that the seed that we sow today is the harvest we reap tomorrow. And when we finally reap, we can find peace in these moments, noticing that the danger isn't gone, but we finally have a place where it feels like it is, the grounding of black bodies.
All right, and we are back. Turn that down some. Gentlemen, thoughts?
Who's going first?
Dave, I seen the look on your face. I was watching your expression the whole time.
Man, that was on point, man. That was on point, and it just validates, what we're doing and what we're talking about today. The need to address our mental health. It's been unaddressed. We've got to dispel that stigma. We've got to reach out for some support, and we got to reach out for support and some help. And that's exactly why we came together and did this and brought this in our community because it's needed. I thought that was powerful. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gary, any thoughts on that?
I echo exactly what David said, and that gentleman artistically said what we've been saying since we've been on the air with you tonight, and so I appreciate it. One of the things that was interesting for me, he talked about. He hit at the issue of dealing with racism so it could raise our mental health and give us some more menu options. And so that's exactly what we're doing here. We are dealing with the root cause of our mental health issues, racism. There is no two ways about it. This is what drives every issue that we face today. And I sincerely mean that, and I just want to repeat, if it's domestic violence, if it's gang violence, if it's substance use, if it's substance abuse, if it's, infidelity, anger management, the inability to parent our children, absent fathers, absent mothers. It is all driven by slavery.
And substance selling. And not just the substance abuse and substance use, but also the substance selling.
Yes, yes. It's all of it is driven through the issue, the onset of slavery. Pre-slavery, these issues didn't exist. So we have, we know that this is the answer for our people to really create who we were pre-slavery. And so, but anyway, I think it was excellent.
You might have to forward that to us.
Got you. I do have a question. And Justin, I see you like you're about to ask something, but let me throw this out there. Marlene Process says, how can I get my hands on this video? One of my grandsons just called me to talk. He was crying and asked me if God was punishing him. I would like for him to see this. So I think more people, I guess, I'm committing. We're on the air almost every night with different shows, and I'm going to be pushing people towards ADMA. I do have a question. Are you guys, Charles Stokes asked the question earlier, are you the only Black-owned mental health facility in Western Mass?
Yes.
Wow.
That let me double that, but let me give you a story, because I think this is important. I've always said today that one day we need to tell the story, right? And there's no shame in this. This is real, right? We have partners, right? And when we was forming this clinic, I've got no problem telling you that the ancestors dropped the name African Diaspora Mental Health Association on me. And me and Dave spoke, and it was a go. But let me be honest, 3 of our partners, it took us a year to agree to the name because of the white man in their head.
Yeah.
The name was too Black.
Wow.
That is deep. And it's worth telling that story, because
Absolutely.
we don't want to hide that fact, how they would control us that much. They weren't within
In the room.
miles of us, but they were in our head,
Right.
saying the name is too Black.
Wow.
And the other part of the story that I think we should tell is that in order to form, we had to do it underground. We had to hide it from us. And I hope
Say that one more time. Say that part. I need that to resonate with people.
Yeah, in order to form, we had to do it underground. We had to hide this beautiful baby from us because somebody would have killed it.
Absolutely.
So,
which is all the more reason why we have to get some of our mental health issues
in check.
resolved. Well, before I moved to Springfield, I was still living in Meriden, Connecticut. And we started, my partner and I, we started what was called the Black Unity Expo. We went to every church in Meriden, including my mother's. We could get no support because they had a problem with the word Black in the name. It got so bad, it's just, we packed it out. Thanks to New Haven and Hartford and folks. I left, I moved to Springfield. I just left it with them, told them take it and keep running it. They changed the name to Minority Expo. It got to the point where you go to the expo, you brought the name back, but it got to the point when you go to the expo and there were no Black people there. Because people felt like they had to grab a gallon of milk and pour it into that small cup of coffee, not understanding the cultural significance of what was happening. So when you say that, Gary, I'm sitting there like, yep, say that again. Say it again and again and again. Because when people wonder why we need agencies and organizations like your own, that right there speaks to everything. It just... Daryl,
I'm sorry to cut you off. We're the only people that are not allowed to say Black and actually identify. Only people. You can. There's Asian community centers, there's Jewish community, there's Italian community centers right in the north end or whatever it's called, south end, whatever it's called. And there is not one qualm about it. people, and I'm talking to people that are on the fence, that don't know if they're black, they want to be black, or they want to be totally black, right? You are a part of a system that tells you can't say your race. You can't say as a black person, I'm black. You can't identify as your behavior or your history as black history, right? You can't say your life matters because you're black. This is an anomaly in the USA. No one else, any other culture, you can name any other culture, they're all allowed to say whatever they want, have community centers, have everything, banks, whatever you want to call it, Polish credit union. What are you saying? We're the only people that can't say it. And these are just, I know, I'm sorry, D.
No. Dude, but that's perfect. Come on.
Which I know a lot of people that I know myself that still say, okay, yeah, it's our fault. We're in the situation we are. If you don't get it, you don't get it. But I'm here to tell you, if you look at every other culture, they're allowed to do anything with their name. And just using your name is power. If you don't understand that you have power in the name, it's not and being the color you are, hopefully D gives me a platform to just talk about melanin power and actually what that means. But you got to understand that what happened to you guys is an anomaly and no other culture has to do with that. I'm done.
You don't have to be done. You can say it louder. I'm okay with it. That's the beauty of owning your own medium. This is us. We can say what we got to say the way we got to say it. We don't have to ask for permission.
I'll go crazy.
So, yeah. All right, y'all. We last 1 hour. I'm at 1 hour and 17 minutes. Brothers, I got to bring y'all back on because I still have a list of questions I haven't even gotten to. So, is it possible for us to bring y'all back on one more time at some point? I know y'all have busy schedules, but I just feel like this conversation it needs to continue. There's certain areas we want to talk about, and only you guys can address this.
You can bring us on as many times as you like. Our message is not going to change. We may expand it, but you can bring us on as many times as you like. We're here for our community. It's as simple as that. So, and we're bringing a complete different message. We're bringing an honest message and the truth. Right. And so, we don't have a problem coming back. If we can help emancipate our people, and I use that word intentionally because look out for our emancipation circles that we're going to be rolling out as soon as COVID's done. Absolutely. Now that's going to be powerful.
So you just gonna drop that and leave on us?
So the emancipation, we can't do it now because of COVID, but the emancipation circles that we're going to throw out. And by the way, we didn't create this. This has been up and running. It's going on throughout the country. But, Black people do not have a space where we can go and say what we want, when we want, and how we want, right? So when we create these emancipation circles, it works for us. When we spoke about pressure bust pipes, we can release it. When we're at work and what we want to say to some folks and we can't say it. Right. Well, you can say it in the emancipation circle.
Wow. So it's our version of come on in and tell us why you're mad.
So where were y'all a year ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago? Good Lord. I can't. Okay. Now, is there going to be an age requirement for that?
Well, that's a great question, Darryl. So maybe we might have to look at that because realistically, we don't want to expose. So I don't swear because Africans don't swear as far as I'm concerned, right? So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yep.
But let me just tell you that we don't want this emancipation circle is designed to do just that, so they can get it out. So we wouldn't want to expose our children to something that they shouldn't really be hearing. So perhaps it would make sense that we had an emancipation circle for age groups and let them know that this isn't allowed. But we also plan on having emancipation circles for women and for men and for families.
Yeah.
You know,
because we treat the whole spectrum from children to the elderly. So couples, family, groups, dual diagnosis. We cover the whole gambit of therapy. So
Okay. And then last question of the night. Sister asked the question, how do you feel about the comment, if you can't beat them, join them?
well, I'm assuming you know my answer, sister. You know that comment is offensive to us as a people. Number one, because we can beat them. So you know, just as a reminder, you know, get that white man out of your head. They're beatable. Matter of fact, they're easy beatable. Look at what one man. No, for real. Look at what one man has done. One man has done. They're easily beatable. The only reason why they're winning right now is because we're divided. But look what happens when we unite. And I can give citation after citation. I can talk about Marcus Garvey. I can talk about Malcolm. I can talk about
Martin
Luther King. You know, all the white people has never given us a thing. They've had to relent.
Yeah.
They've never given us nothing. They've had to relent. We've taken it. It's just so it makes it look like they make it look like they've given it to us. And so we're in control when we're together. That's the bottom line. We don't need to join them. We need to join us.
and even Brother Farrakhan.
Listen, I'm done. That was a mic drop. I don't know what else to ask after that, but I will be calling, gentlemen. Justin, would you agree? We gotta.
Man,
We're gonna do this again.
I think this is a show that is not even a show.
This is real talk.
School. This is re-engineering our people, man. And I keep on saying there's a lot of people we know that are on the fence that don't know they're black and don't know their power of what that means. They don't know they're powerful. And when you guys get on, it's an easier click for them. You know what I mean? Because you are in the.
So the mic drop will be this. This will lead us into the next time we come on. Gary, explain. So our name is African Diaspora Mental Health Association.
Yeah.
Gary, tell them what the diaspora is.
Well, I think most people hopefully know what the diaspora is, but diaspora in a nutshell means, you know, it's an area where you come from. It's a home. So we are people away from our home. So as Africans, you know, we have quote unquote African American, we have Afro-Caribbean, we have Afro this, Afro that, right?
Brazilian, Afro Venezuelan, we got Afro Pacific Islanders, we got them everywhere. Yeah.
So but the common denominator is African, right? And so you know, wherever Black people are, we're part of the diaspora. And I just want to, because Dave raised the issue, I just want to make it very clear, despite what people may say, that our Latinx brothers are Africans. They are Africans that was dropped off at an island, okay? Some in Puerto Rico, some in Mexico, some in wherever it was. But they are indeed African. They're just as African as we are. Now, that may sound controversial to you, but do your research. We're all African. And that's why, you know, here at our agency, we're working that model that we're African. And our Latinx brothers and sisters, quote unquote, because they're African, they are here and they're home. They don't want to go anywhere else because they're home. They're treated like family and they treat us like family. So, you know, I think perhaps we can explore that the next time we come on. But if you've heard of Louisa, Louisa is a place in Puerto Rico, and that's the first place that the Africans went from Africa to Louisa. And that's why when you hear of that region, the people are so black that people are like, oh, that's where all the black people are. It's really where they first went, but they're just as African as we are.
My brother-in-law is from Catalina, which isn't too far from Louisa.
Okay,
you're absolutely right. Yep. So, woo! Listen, man, I got goosebumps. I really enjoyed this. This is one of the things I can go on for hours. I got a million questions. So I got to say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, and thank you. If you can tell people where you're located, tell people how to access your services. For all of our viewers, please know that, nothing is really free in the world. There's market rate. We have to pay for these services. These are professionals. Please give them, where you're located, how they can contact you. If you take insurance, don't take insurance, because I'm looking at some of the comments and there are people who have family members that need to come and at least talk to y'all. Absolutely.
We're at 605 State Street in Springfield, Massachusetts. We are open from 8 in the morning to 6 at night. Right now, because of COVID, the office is closed, but you can always call us at area code 413-266-2207. That's area code 413-266-2207. And we also have a comprehensive website at www.admha.org.
Daryl,
Yes,
just one last thing before you go, because
absolutely. Absolutely.
This is important because you're my brother. And so I want to be very clear that what happened, and if you don't know what happened to Daryl Moss, please find out. What happened to Daryl Moss was wrong, and our black community has not acted the way it should have acted. That is a big problem. That's very problematic, that we would sit back and allow our mayor to slap our brother in the face and take his job, and our black community not respond correctly. So be on the lookout, because there will be a response. And when that response is ready, we're going to need everybody on board to be and stand to let the mayor know that this will never again happen in our community, and that we're seeking his behavior to be corrected. And so, it's important that we say that, and it's important that we say it at every platform. And if we didn't say it tonight, I think we would have failed as an agency. We wouldn't have lived up to who we say we are. So I know you wasn't expecting that, Daryl, but I felt the need to say that.
Thank you.
We don't tell each other for some crazy reason that we love each other, and our actions is out of love, because we love this brother. We love all our brothers, and so we need to show this love, because we need that. That's what brings us together, and that's what's going to fuel us to get to where we need to get. And that's good. Love is good mental health.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, brothers. I appreciate y'all. I really do. Woo.
Good night, brother.
All right. Brothers, this is Black Health. Let's talk about it. We'll be back next Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Please continue to tune in. If you haven't seen any of the old shows, please watch the shows. Visit facebook.com/ondeckbeingblack. We have some great topics on food apartheid, diabetes, diet. We talked about it all. And today we talked about black health and black men. So listen, there's so much more that we need to talk about. Continue to tune in. Continue to pay attention. If we're going to change this narrative, we're going to do it. And like these brothers said, we're going to do it together. Justin, anything you want to add, brother?
Love yourself. That's it. Love yourself.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a beautiful night. And thank you, Gary Porter, David Lewis. We appreciate you, love you, and we will connect. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
All right.